What's up, everybody? I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.
Alrighty, Brandon. The duality of soccer when you follow a lot of teams had a lot of ups and downs this week. Some of the highest ups were the Dynamo taking a road win, Wrexham getting promoted into League One with this whole Robin Ryan project. But my lows were very low. Liverpool had a chance to take it and stay at the top of the league. Missed out on that. And honestly, that was probably my only low of the week. I was telling you before we started this era. So Osaka, the J League team I started following last year, is number 1 in the league. So things are looking up, Brandon. And I am nervous because nothing can ever stay up. And I am nervous about Austin because life is going so well. Do I have reason to be nervous, or am I just being crazy?
I think you're being crazy, man. Looking at the rest of your teams, it's the year of the cold, dude. Obviously, everything you're loving is coming up on smelling like roses. Liverpool did slip. That was devastating, but it's all right, baby. We're still gonna come away. We're gonna be in Champions League. I'm not worried.
It's not game over. We're going to be in Champions League. A lot of changes are happening. Also, I forgot. I do have another down. So Carolina Core, who we dubbed Dyna Tres last week, just lost maybe about 40 minutes ago to NCFC in the Open Cup. Was really rooting for them. But this was the kid I was talking to you about that I was gifted.
That's sick.
Yeah, so I wanted to I might throw this clip up on our socials. What do Dynamo fans think of the sublimated fox all around the kit? So from afar it looks cool, right? But if you're just like chilling, your peripherals pick it up, and I'm like, shit, I spilled something. I keep thinking there's like trash or like stains there, but
something on it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's cool. I like it. I'm not too crazy about the badge, to be honest with you, but they're going all in on the fox.
Is it
even
a
more
fox?
so than the Dynamo? Yeah, they're a fox.
So it's a fox, and then it looks like a sunset that's like behind it.
Yeah, so they're out in the Appalachian Mountain area, I think I want to say. So you have the mountains, the rise. With these patches, there's always a story behind it. So I'd have to get the exacts of it all.
The battling oranges is what I mean. I like it. I like the badge, but like the coloring scheme. That's the only thing. The oranges battling each other with the sunset and the fox.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is. If you maybe dull some of the colors out, it might look better. But oh well, this isn't a Carolina Core podcast. This is a Dynamo podcast. So let's move on, Brandon. Let's start with our ball it like I see it. How did you see it, Brandon?
Oh, Jamal, I'm gonna ball it like I see it. What I see is a team that's hurt, tired, but still fighting for points. Apparently ducks fly together, but I guess loons don't. There's only 3 things that are certain in life, Jamal. Death, taxes, and Benny Ball. Hey, Minnesota, was it library night at the Allen East Stadium? It was slam-packed with fans, but stunned silent. Bartlow kept my heart from flatlining when he cleared the ball off the line, preventing a goal. More like Ethan Hartlow. Then, in the 38th minute, Micael scored a brilliant header. Jamal, you think I can legally adopt a 23-year-old Brazilian man? Look into that for me, will ya? Most of the second half was a whole lot of nothing. It wasn't until the 70th minute when the Loons equalized. Life seemed to be beaming in South Canada. But will the Dynamo die? No, sir. In the 76th minute, the pride of Poland put in a slicing strike to give us a 2-1 lead. The K in Kowalczyk stands for knife. Steve Clark, I've been hard on you lately, but my God, son, way to be the real Wonderwall. 3 huge points on the road were secured. Now it's time to roll up Austin on 420 and smoke them out of the shell. And Jamal, that's how I ball it like I see it. Steve Clark, man, he was out of his mind that game, dude. That at the end of there, I got to give him his flowers. He stood up big time.
Yeah, I wanted to.
There's my applause.
I wanted to text the group. I feel like front office is listening to this podcast because every time we have a gripe about somebody, they come out and shut us up the next week. And so we complain so much about Clark not playing too well, and then look what happens. Honestly, adopting a 30-some-year-old Brazilian, that might be
23.
plausible. Yeah, that might be doable out there. I saw a video on X today of a lady taking her dead uncle to get a loan out on his name.
To the bank.
Have you seen that? Yeah, exactly. So
yes.
rules don't apply in Brazil, man. You might be able to adopt them. So if you want, we can start getting the paperwork ready. And hey, you'll be helping out with the green card process, right? So
Micael MacArthur, Eminem, come on, dude. That's already
exactly.
writing itself.
Help the
I
team
love it
out.
already.
There goes an international slot. We're good to go.
He's domestic. I'm saving us so much money, and I'm only going to take 10%.
All heroes don't wear capes,
No, but
as they say.
what a header from him. I'm so happy he scored the goal, but he and Bartlow back there are really a difference maker. Loved what we're seeing from just how patient we were. We looked like we wanted to kind of break out. That's a game that we were going to lose. You and I predicted for us not really to come away with anything in that. I mentioned right here, if we win that game, I'm going to be elated. I am absolutely elated. I was not kidding. Death, taxes, and Benny Ball. I am all in on this guy, considering where we're coming from with all these injuries, how much minutes we have on all these legs, and yet we're now winning away games. Like, get out of here, man. Like, this is special. I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, I love that pairing in the back. And Sviatchenko's not a bad backup either, and he's a great leader. But I feel like in a healthy squad, you got to go with those two back there. I really like what we saw from them. I really like what we saw from Seba. I like false
Yeah.
nine Seba. I like it a lot, and he's so creative. He brings a creativity that we haven't seen in quite some time, especially on the attacking. Um, what were your thoughts on his play up top?
So the only thing I'm concerned about with him being our false nine is it takes away from the cross in the box. He's only like 5'6" to be generous. I mean, he's really not a big guy at all, and he doesn't have the strength to push around center backs. I think that's what you're seeing a lot from Dorsey because he's having to dribble so much and doesn't really have anybody to cross it to. So when you eliminate that from our attack, that is a big portion, and I think that's why we have to sit back so much because there's only so much threatening we can do. I love his creativity up there, but he definitely needs to be more in like a counter-attacking mid rather than a false mid. I'd rather see him as like a counter-attack playing behind a striker, setting everybody up on the wings. I think that would be prime. Moving Coco back to like a center defensive mid, I think it would even be interested when Ache comes back if Artur might even be the guy that's coming in and out as like a super sub, and we're rotating Coco and Ache and really resting legs as we progress into the season. I think that could push the longevity of this team big time. I like what I'm seeing in terms of our shape. I've crushed him on substitutions. He made some interesting ones in Minnesota, but it worked out.
You said he lived by death, taxes, and Benny Ball. Let's talk about Benny Ball because we saw a clip posted yesterday where Ben kind of talks about his coaching style, his theory, and how he's had to adapt. Producer Shay, do you have that clip ready to go?
Maybe.
You guys are going to have me editing a lot today.
We're going to play this way. We went through preseason preaching a little bit more of a high octane, high pressing way. And I quickly realized, like, nope, this ain't working. This is not going to work. With the players that we have, we've got to change and we've got to look a different way. So week by week, we morphed it and we adapted and we learned. And each game was we took a lot out of, and we finally got there towards the end of the year where, again, we're like, okay, we've arrived. We understand now the game model. Our principles are much clearer. And now in this preseason, it's a lot more clear to the players on who we are. They're coming in with a clear idea how we want to go about the game. And we were able to get more granular in preseason. I think that's, even though we've had a lot of injuries, it's nice to see our team playing in the same way and understanding how we want to go about it. I came in, I was like, okay,
Alrighty. So, Brandon, I guess I'll start off because between the two of us, I've been hardest on him. But that's what I love to hear. Like, that was my biggest complaint. If you look at our episodes last year before the end of the season, I felt like Ben was a MLS 1.0 coach and he wasn't good at adapting and making changes. For him to say that, that's exactly what I want to hear out of our head coach. Now, my next question is, did we change as a result of the whole Sebas situation and us kind of being strangled by his contract, or did we change because he really felt like it wasn't working last year having that high octane pressing? pressing offense. And also shout outs to Glenn Crooks. It looks like that's where we got the clip from.
I think we have to play our style, and it's not a bad thing in terms of not forcing the press because we don't have the wingers to really do that. Keonis was a difference maker to utilize his speed, but he doesn't have the crossing development. When you look at, for instance, like a Liverpool, who is really good at putting on that offensive press, you're able to do that because you have such strong wing play. And the wing play is not only dynamic scores, but they're also somebody that, again, can put it on the box to a striker that can head it in or put it on the net, a la Darwin Nuez, who loves to put it on post. But like, for the most part, we don't have that. So I think we're most suited to play a defensive style counterattack, be patient, and eke out these 1-0, 2-0 kind of games. I'm fine with that. I think that's still a solid tactic to win it all. Worked for Leicester City when they won the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I want to hear out of a coach. Work with the pieces that you have, make changes. It's just one of the most frustrating things in soccer is when you have that coach that is just set in his ways and he's not going to change no matter what, whether it's bad substitutions, bad timing, or just, refusing to adapt to what the team's giving you. I feel like that's why we saw 3 points come out against Minnesota was because we adapted and we changed to what we're used to seeing. I mean, look, we talked about the false nine, Seba up top. I love that he made that change. We saw what happens there. We saw what happens when you move Escobar to, he's not too comfortable on the left, but it works. And I just love that it seems like Coach Olsen is willing to accept, like, I might be wrong here. Let's make this change. Let's change this around. So I just love a coach that will roll with the punches and then can adapt. So again, I'm very hard on him, but I was very thrilled to see that in the in that interview clip.
Now, I think in the past, with how many quote unquote goals Nepo Baby scored early, we probably would have rode that train to death, right? Baird started off like his first 10 games not scoring a goal and then finally turned it on in the end. I was afraid we were going to see that with Nepo Baby because he scored that first goal quickly in his first time on the pitch. I thought like, oh no, we're going to overplay this guy. To see him kind of phase out and be more of like a late substitution player, I love seeing that he noticed we weren't getting the same kind of attack and he adapted. It's another big reason why I'm all in on Benny Ball. I just think he's the right coach for us.
Alrighty, Brandon. Well, we have Benny Ball. We have nicknames for all these players and eras when it comes to Dynamo. Brandon, I think we both think that we need a nickname for that duo in the back of Micael and Bartlow. So I'll let you spearhead this assignment.
So I have a couple. Some are very lame, and some I think could be workshopped correctly, and it could work out. Because in this case, with how young both of those guys are and how great they are, it's time we start to think of what is a nickname for this dynamic duo. So I have an obvious one, Batman and Robin. Whoever wants to be Batman and whoever wants to be Robin, we can decide that later. Double Trouble. The only thing is that makes it sound like they're not great. Tick and Talk. Those two guys are like clockwork. I did a play with Heart and Soul, Heart, Low, and Soul, and then Peek and Boo.
I don't like any of those. I
essentially just Googled.
What about Ebony and Ivory?
You start creating something. Where was you didn't think of any.
Ebony and Ivory.
I thought that was too on the. I thought about. I was trying to do something with his flow, but we got to think of something here because these two are starting to develop up a chain here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's set that out for the universe. If you can think of a good nickname for Bartlow and Micael back there, let us know and we will shout it out. In the meantime, I'll get my thinking cap on and I'll start thinking more. I think Ebony and Ivory is it's a gimme. It's too easy. We got to be a little more clever with that one. But
we got to be a little bit more clever, yet you didn't bring any to the table. So
I said Ebony and Ivory.
I think that's easy to set up your ivory. Yeah, you're sitting up in your ivory tower throwing judgment by not bringing anything. So you know what? Judge all you want, but create something. How about that?
Tick and Talk in the options.
Back. Damn right. Oh, that's great.
Alrighty,
Tick and
Brandon.
talk works great. Nobody has that. Otherwise, people are going to come up with like the same shit. Like, I don't want like the same nicknames that are just overdone. Like, that's why I didn't like Batman and Robin. But I knew people are going to throw that one out there. So I tried to kill that one before we get started.
$5 says the Great Wall is going to be the first one. The Great Wall of Houston is going to be the first one mentioned. It's always
I kind of
nice
like
with the
that too.
backlight.
But the thing is yeah, I was going to say we need like 4 though for that. But that kind of does work with Escobar and Dorsey. Well, half of Dorsey.
Yeah, and depending, I mean, I don't know if Olsen is like set on Bartlow starting over Sviatchenko every single time. So, and we'll see how much longer we have Micael. It seems like he's getting interest from abroad. I feel like we can get some good money from him, but I hope we can keep him for at least another year or so. Let him marinate down here in the Houston Heat. But alrighty, Brandon, before we move on to some of our favorite segments, let's do our crystal ball. What are you predicting against those broccolis out there in Austin?
So we got Austin this Saturday, 420 at 7:30 kickoff. I'm predicting here a 3-2 win. I think this is going to be a goal fest. And the big thing is, I know 3-2 sounds like it's going to be a close game. I don't think it will be. I think it's one of those where we're up like 2-0, they might score, and then we're up 3-1, and then they score a very late goal. I don't think this is going to be something that's going to be a worrisome game. I think we take it to Austin. Now, here's the other thing of why I feel so confident about that. Austin hasn't won a road game since July 8th of last year, and that was against Minnesota when they won 4-1. Other than that, they have a lot of shades of the Dynamo. They're a team that can sometimes go out there and surprise you, and they'll score a bunch of goals and beat a team you didn't expect them to beat. And then when they play a bottom of the barrel team, they usually either tie or lose. This team isn't ready, I think, to catapult back in the days where they were making finals and stuff like that. I think they're a decent team. I think Austin maybe makes the fringe of playoffs here. Currently, they sit 11th, but it is obviously very early in the season. They've got some goal scorers. They got a strong midfield, but other than that, they have a lot of holes. I think this is, and for lack of better terms, this is like a 500 ball club.
Yeah, I don't see them scoring, to be honest with you. I don't see any real threat up top. I think for Austin, it'll be successful if they can just sit back and make it as boring as possible. So I'm predicting a 1-0 or 2-0. I'm going to go 2-0 as my prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 1-0 or 2-0 Dynamo. I just don't see a real threat from Austin at all. Man, just talk about like a fall from grace, because I mean, even last year they started out hot. The year before that, they were a team to be reckoned with, and I just feel like, man, there's just so much going on from that front office. You had the whole Claudio Reyna stuff. I don't know if Wolf will be there next season. There's just a lot going on in Austin, and I just feel like they're getting the crash course of what it was like being a Dynamo fan within like 2-3 years. Well, what lasted us a decade, they're getting it in like a 2-3 year span. So, um, so yeah,
So
2-0.
the
Go ahead.
the one thing I will let you know though, man, is Austin doesn't really have any clean sheet games. Not meaning like they've prevented one, meaning they haven't scored one. I think they only have 3 on the season. They have a lot of multiple goal games. This is what I mean by like the fact that they're a team that can score goals, but they're going to give up a lot of goals. They have a -2 goal differential on the season right now. I could see why you think it's going to be a grinding. I don't think they're going to win by any means because they're an awful road team. That's what I mean by they're shades of who we used to be. They're a big fall from grace. Like, that's what's so funny. Their rise to the top. All those fans, I think they're about to start eating what we had to eat for so long. But at the same time, they got a good midfield. Drusy can score goals. They can put it on net, but I don't think they're winning this one.
So I went back and looked. I mean, but all their away games, they're no goals. I'm looking at St. Louis, 1-0 loss. Orlando, 2-0 loss. The games where there was a lot of goals, they were playing at home. And I do feel like Austin does have a home field advantage. The crowds pack it up. They have a decent support system. I mean, they're no hustle town, but it's decent.
And
But
also, they've only played 3 road games. So that's a
Yeah.
little bit easy to say they haven't scored in 2 of them. But I get it. But at the same time, most of their games have been at home. And that's why I'm saying it's such a big red flag. The fact that they've had so many home games already, and yet they're sitting 11th. I think this is a firestorm right now about to happen to them. They're about to go on the road here from St. Louis now to us. And then following that match here, the next week, they got to take on the Galaxy, then Vancouver. Galaxy, those are the top 3 teams right now with us, Galaxy, and Vancouver. It has a miserable grind for Austin.
It can get really messy way down there in 290 really quick. If they go on a 3-4 game losing streak, I can already see calling for coach's head. And I really hope, as a rival, I hope we're the ones that really start that conversation. Just beating them
100%.
3-0 is going to piss a lot of people off, and I'm here for it. So, yeah, so there's our crystal ball. 2-0.
I think right now for Austin, the best thing that they can do is win a cup that's not MLS Cup. That's what they're playing for right now. I don't think they're going to be a threat.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's at this point, it seems like them and Dallas are just fighting for who's not the worst team in Texas, because it's a pretty significant separation between us and those other 2 guys. So, again, I feel like
Completely
we paid our
agree.
dues, so I'm all for it. Alrighty, Brandon, what do we have lined up next?
We're going to be balling around the globe, my man. Producer Shay, hit the sound.
Balling around the globe.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to start this one off today here, Jamal. Today, we're going to travel to Portugal. And Jamal, do you believe curses are real in sports?
Curses? I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in curses. I don't believe in any of that.
Even in sports? When you think of a curse in sports, what do you think of?
I'm trying to think of anything soccer specific, but I'm thinking of the Red Sox. That's one of the more popular ones. The Black Cat, was it with the Cubs or Wrigley Field?
Yes, it is.
It feels like it's more baseball when I think of curses.
So, as somebody who grew up a massive Cubs fan, trust me, I believe curses are very, very real. Now, I'm going to give you one here in soccer because, as I said, we go to Portugal, and now we're going to Benfica because back in the day, their former coach, Bela Gutmann, well, it's a truly mind-blowing story. Bela Gutmann led Benfica to 2 consecutive European Cup wins in 1961 and 1962. After the 1962 European Cup final, Gutmann approached the Benfica board of directors for a pay raise. Despite being well-deserved for that, he was turned down. On leaving Benfica, Gutmann allegedly cursed the club, declaring, "Not in 100 years from now will Benfica ever be European champion." After that, Benfica have gone on to lose all 8 of their European finals, including 5 European Cup finals: 1963, 1965, 1968, 1988, and 1990, and 3 UEFA Europa League finals: 1983, 2013, and 2014. It is known that before the 1990 final, which was played in Vienna, Eusebio prayed at his grave and asked for the curse to be broken, but Benfica couldn't win after that final either. It's widely suggested that Benfica was by far the better team in both the 2013 UEFA Cup final against Chelsea and the 2014 final against Sevilla, but they couldn't win either of them, losing the latter in penalties. It could be the case that the story of the team being cursed creates extra pressure on the players and the manager, which affects their nerves and performance. So, you change your mind now? Is Benfica cursed?
Benfica is not cursed. You know what cursed them was not giving Freddie Adu a chance. They sold him after a year, 2 years, I want to say. If they would have just held on to Freddie Adu a little bit longer, he would have been the American savior we all thought he was going to be. I don't think he's cursed. I'm just a cynic, man. I don't believe in any of that stuff. It's crazy. And that guy's laughing from heaven right now. But I don't know, man.
They got 40 more years, man, until they win.
How nuts would it be if
Because
they
that's
do,
what he said, 100 years.
Yeah, how crazy if the 41st year
that's when they'll win the next one. I'm telling you. Let's make that prediction right here, right now.
Do they win first, or does MLS adopt promotion relegation?
In 37 years, I think Benfica will be playing in the MLS.
Yeah, Jesus. Well, alrighty, Brandon. We'll go from curses to something else a little more positive. As I started the show off, I did that on purpose, playing mind chess with you guys. I mentioned that Wrexham got promoted to League One. Well, the reason I had mentioned that was because this weekend's game, there was a scenario where Wrexham wins and two other teams either had to lose or draw for them to get promoted. Well, that happened. There's still 2 games left in the League Two season. Wrexham won, and the two other teams drew, or one drew, one lost. With that, Wrexham got promoted. So, of course, like many teams, even here in the U.S., do, everyone rushed the field. They did that last year. They did it again this year once they found out they were getting promoted. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, Brandon. As you saw on the series, if for those who watched the series, Wrexham was saved by the fans. The fans got together, put money together, and saved the club from being put into administrative, which is basically it's going to get it's just going to evaporate, so to speak. So a lot of these fans have ownership with this club. When Rob and Ryan took over, they had to convince the fans to buy the team from them. They agreed to it. Um, Once Rob and Ryan took over, they did things professionally. They brought in GMs, they brought in presidents, they brought in people who knew the world of football or soccer, as we like to say it. With these professionals, though, come rules that a lot of people in Wrexham weren't used to, a lot of changes. One rule is that fans cannot have flares on the pitch. So I'm going to credit Beardy WXM, Beardy Wrexham, with his tweet. Charlie Day drinks alcohol in the view of the pitch, which is a criminal offense. People laugh and find it charming. Ryan Barnett, one of their backs, holds a flare on the pitch while being held aloft on fans' shoulders. It's called iconic. He's a hero. And he is. He's one of my favorite players. A fan takes a photo on the pitch in celebration of promotion with his son holding a flare, and he gets a 2-year ban. Brandon, this has caused a lot of uproar in the community, even outside of the community, with a lot of the American fans that have been obsessed with the story, like myself. Brandon, where do you side on this? Is it holding a precedent and abiding by it? Because the players are going to get a pass. Where it gets tricky is when you have these Hollywood stars at the game breaking the rules, and it's funny, it's charming, as Beardy mentions. Brandon, where do you stand on this? Was Wrexham right in penalizing this fan, or do they need to, I guess, stick to their own rules and not let other things happen or other things be allowed?
You can't penalize the fan when there's a massive amount of people on the pitch as well. Like, if it was just him out there, that makes it a lot easier. But the fact that it's a mass crowd, at this point, you have to rain down like a heavy fine to the owners for condoning this and allowing this. Make pocketbooks hurt. I'm sure you can take that money and then flip it to some charity or whatever it is that they do with the fine money. But that makes more of a impact than this story will. That's you're alienating, you're punishing the wrong people in that case.
Yeah, and so I guess I should preface it with I'm on the side of the fans here. And there's a picture of Charlie Day with his beer. And again, I think we talked about it when I last went to Liverpool. You do not drink where the pitch is at. That's just like not allowed. And he gets away with it. Everyone laughs and it's funny. It's Charlie being Charlie, right? But yeah, to your point, like, look, I really sympathize with the fans, especially because they legit saved the club. Like, it's nuts how they got together, and it's not like Wrexham is like London. There's not a ton of money there. It's a blue collar town. It's a very small town, and I mean the story's amazing in one aspect, but to come out and start banning people that played a role in saving this club, that's where it gets really tough for me. The other thing is, like, to your point, running on a pitch is not allowed. So are you going to ban everybody that ran the pitch? Like, there needs to be loopholes, so to speak, right? Like, everyone jump the pitch, like, allow a few things. And it, again, if you're going to ban this guy for 2 years for holding a flare with his son, and again, they call it a flare. It's just a stick of smoke. Like, nothing's going to burn down. then you need to penalize Charlie Day. You need to penalize the player. Like, if you're going to set a rule, then keep it across the board. It's just very frustrating when the fans get the diehard fans. They're the ones getting penalized, and they're the ones investing more than anybody else as far as financially. And I guarantee you, Charlie Day didn't pay a penny to get to Wrexham, to get to those seats, to have his drinks. But yet, the guy who's spending his salary pay is getting banned for 2 years. Well, Brandon, I have a feeling this is going to have a happy ending. As we were talking, or as I was getting all the documents ready for producer Shay, Rob McElhenney, co-owner of Wrexham, tweeted out to Mr. Beardy Wrexham, "We are looking into this. Thank you for bringing it to our attention." So shouts out to owners that actually listen to the fans and care about the fans' input, because I love seeing that. I don't know if we'd ever see Ted tweet us. But I love that ending and the fact that they're taking holding accountability and looking into it.
I think if you want to stop pitch invasions, the best way, especially in soccer, that you can do this, and I know this isn't going to be like a popular thing, but it would probably put an end to it, is you just, next home game, you don't allow fans, because then that really does hurt the pocketbook of the club, because you don't get any of the ticket sales. And then it also makes fans irate because you miss the game. And I think that's probably the closest thing I could think of as a happy compromise to try your best to keep people from storming the pitch. But if my team wins the championship at the end of the year in a dramatic fashion, like, I think as a league, you just have to be understanding of that.
Or you can put a crocodile-filled moat around your pitch.
Damn right, baby.
And that'll hold people off. Well, what's funny is that, like, I don't really ever see that happening. Because, like, us, for example, like,
Crocodile
I love...
moats?
No, I love, like... How do I say that? I love having seats, like, near the pitch or on top of the pitch. Like, that's one thing I love about English soccer is, like, the seats are right there on the pitch. When there's a throw-in, the fans are right behind them. I love that we implemented those new seats at the Shell that are on the pitch, but they're like the high-end seats. They're super expensive. Like, I like the hardcore fans to be down there. I want fans like talking trash to awesome players as they throw things in. Like, the guy paying $1,000 for a seat, he's not going to do that. So I don't know. I don't see a pitch invasion happening in MLS as often as it does overseas.
I also got to be honest, I don't like pitch invasions in professional sports. I think that's a more fun college thing. Like, I think it needs to stay at like college and lower levels. Professional, they make too much money. Like, you're getting into iffy grounds there. Like, I would get why you just don't want them near those expensive assets.
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing too. I could see like our MLS guys being like annoyed by it. It looked like the Wrexham pitch, they were all about it. Those guys stayed there like an hour after the fact, taking photos. They were all for it. But it's League Two. I could see like an Herrera being like, "Get me the hell out of here. These guys are crazy," right? So yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's crazy because growing up, I always associated pitch invasions with March Madness, and then now it's just like become a thing in sports in general. So yeah.
Have you ever stormed the field or court before?
I've never had a reason to. Not live.
I mean, I went to Texas Tech. I was there for the Crabtree catch against UT and stormed the field for that. That was awesome, dude. Like, that was one where, again, players stayed, we all partied, but that was magic.
Yeah,
dude. That was incredible.
But
anybody who was there,
but that's like our point exactly. Like that, it's college kids charging a pitch with other college kids who were playing the game. Like, there's
exactly.
The other situation.
I agree. Like,
yeah. Like I'm charging.
I know they're getting paid
$1
now and everything, but it's not the same. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, alrighty, Brandon. That wraps it up for our balling around the globe. Took us to Wales, and where did you take us this week?
Portugal, baby. To the curses of Portugal.
We took it to Europe this week, but we go on to our ball in or ball out, where we throw up topics in the soccer world and say if we're for them, ball in, or against them, ball out. Brandon, you got topic number 1?
I do.
Ball in or ball out?
Yeah, there it is. So I'm going to break these down kind of individually first. Let's first start with how they're implementing the new MLS rules. Let's go over each one and see if you're in or out against it, ball in or ball out. So first one is the off-field treatment rule. If a player with a suspected injury remains on the ground for more than 15 seconds, the referee will stop play and wave the medical crew onto the field to evaluate the player. When safe, the player will be removed from the field and remain off the field for a minimum of 2 minutes for further assessment and treatment. Ball in and ball out for this. For me, I think I'm going to be ball in for it. It makes it to the point of, do you need treatment that badly? And if you really do, then okay, get off the field. Let's get you looked at. 2 minutes, I think, is a fair assessment for a guy to get his wind back, whatever it is, right? I think this allows, I know those slide tackles, I know some people are like, they're faking it. And some of them, they are faking it, most definitely. But some of those hurt like hell, and it doesn't look like much on television. And I get that they need a moment. This allows at least for them to not milk that moment.
I'm with you. I'm ball in on this. I feel it's like the pitch count in baseball. You just got to speed things up. Kids nowadays don't have the attention
Yep.
span. If you stop a game, and like that's what I feel like soccer has above football, baseball. It's that it's quick, it's fast paced. You're staying entertained. So I love it. It speeds up the game. It helps with these people who are milking it, who are faking it. My only concern is that, let's say it works so well that MLS is like, well, is 2 minutes a long time? Let's give them a minute. And then does that turn into like, well, let's try 30 seconds. And like, where does this stop? So I like it. I think 2 minutes is a perfect amount of time. I wouldn't be surprised though if we see that change to a minute 30 or a minute in the future.
I agree. I think you could start to see them fraction it down in terms of the time given. I like that one. All right, producer Shay, next one.
Ball in or ball out.
The time substitution rule. It requires that a substitute player exit the field within 10 seconds. Failure to exit from any point on the field within the 10 seconds will cause the incoming player to wait for a 60-second holding period before entering the game at the next stoppage. During the holding period and prior to the substitution entering, the team will play down a player. Exceptions to the rule include an injury and a goalkeeper substitution. So, in this case, you got 10 seconds to get off the pitch. If you don't get off within 10 seconds, that substitute has to be held on for 60 seconds. Ball in, ball out for that.
So I'm ball in for the same exact reasons as we just mentioned, but then I get concerned of like, are we turning into hockey? Is this slowly becoming like hockey rules? That's my only concern. But at the end of the day, we're trying to stay ahead of the curve. We're trying to stay relevant and interesting for another generation coming along. And again, generation coming along does not have the attention span that we're used to. So for all those reasons, I'm ball in on the changes.
I like it more because it's taking out of the referee's hands to me, where they just kind of are like, it's 10 minutes of extra time. And it's like, where did you really get all that time from? To me, this allows us to understand it a little bit more, to say, like, there's no way we killed 5 minutes in substitutions if you implement these rules. I like that a little bit more because now it puts a little bit more kind of this willy-nilly restraint for a head referee. The one thing I don't like is then it kind of puts a lot of power into this 10 seconds. Because what if he's at 9.5 and then he just gets off? What are we going to do? Go to VAR and look at, did he get off the pitch? Because if so, how much is that going to slow the game down? So I don't like where the gray area of 10 seconds can come into play. And then suddenly we're being held a guy off, even though it is 60 seconds. Who knows what could happen in that 60 seconds? So I think they're headed in the right direction with this rule, but it definitely needs to be ironed out in terms of getting off the field within 10 seconds, because I just feel like that's too much interpretation.
So I don't remember, did they implement these rules with MLS Next first?
Yeah, so this
Do you
has been
know?
going on for a while at that level, and then now they're bringing it up here. It's the same thing what they've done with the minor leagues. What people don't realize is a pitch clock and all that stuff. It's been around for a while in the minors, but now it's made its way to the majors. Same thing with these rules. But all right, next one, baby.
Ball in or ball out.
VAR decisions. They will be explained and announced by the referee to fans in the stadium and broadcast to viewers at home. You ball in or ball out for VAR?
I'm ball in on that. I feel like sometimes it is more convenient to watch the game at home, just for little things like that and the commentary. So if the fans in the stadium, especially the casuals who don't really understand what's going on, can be informed in real time, I'm balling on that.
Here's the thing. What are they really announcing? Are they announcing why it's not a goal? Are they announcing why it is a goal? Or are they just literally running out to the middle of the field and going, no goal or goal? Because if so, what an unnecessary thing to add in. The other thing I worry about too is like, what is the language barrier here with some of these referees? We see a lot of them and you can make universal calls, but if it's really broken English or really broken whatever, and it's taking a while for them to explain something, then that could become embarrassing. So like, I do worry a bit about this and see the necessity of it. I think it's a good idea in terms of it sounds cool, but in all practice, I don't really get what it's really bringing to the table here.
Well, I guess for me, like, and you and producer Shay don't probably experience this because y'all sit with the supporters, but I sit on the like with the casuals, right? I sit on the north or on one of the ends, and so there's nothing more infuriating when you're like eavesdropping on the conversations behind you and someone's misinforming whoever they're with, like, oh, they're stopping the play because that guy's offside. It's like, no, he's not offside. They're stopping it because this. And so that's my biggest
Yeah.
gripe. It's like I always want to turn back and be like, no, you're wrong. This is what's happening. So for me, that's the biggest takeaway is that like I don't have to be that bad guy anymore. I'll just let the referee take care and explain what's happening.
I do like it because again, it does make the referee have to be more accountable to explain the decision. But that's the other thing. I just don't know what they're explaining. If it's offsides and you put up the little line marker and I can see it, like I don't need him to tell me it's because it's offsides. Like I don't really see the necessity of how they're going to explain it. So I am interested in seeing that. But if it's kind of the concept that I'm thinking where he's just announcing goal or no goal or onside, offside, foul, red card, then I'm out. Like I think the only thing that they need to announce is like if it's a red card to where they're like an elbow happened and occurred and because that it's now an automatic like blah blah blah. Like I think that makes sense. But I don't know. I'm kind of out. All right, producer Shay, next one.
Ball in or ball out?
When it's all said and done, Ben Olsen will go down as the greatest Dynamo coach of all time.
Oh, I'm ball out. I'm a Kinnear guy. You can't beat Papa Kinnear, man. That guy had us on the verge of being a dynasty. I mean, it helped that he had a very special team with him, but Ben needs to do more to become one of the all-time greats. I mean, look, after Kinnear, in my opinion, there's not much competition. Owen Coyle was, I think it's safe to say, kind of a joke of a hire. He's one of those guys that, like, in early American soccer, if you had a British accent, you had a job. I think Owen Coyle is prime definition of that. And Wilmer, I mean, Wilmer's a tough one. He wasn't a terrible coach. For other reasons, I'm not crazy about him. So I would say after Kinnear, it probably would be Ben. As early as right now, I feel like it's easy to say that. But as far as like putting him on Mount Rushmore, I think we'd have to wait a little bit. For me, it's still Kinnear's a guy.
I think it's easy to shout him out because when we won all the championships, of course, time was flowing, but the league was so drastically different. When you look at a legendary coach and what makes him legendary, a couple things happen. They take a rundown team or a team that had success and then is now in the gutters. They install a culture and then they start winning. You look at what Ben has done. It's exactly that. We installed a culture. We have an identity in how we play and we're starting to win. Not only have we won a US Open Cup, but we're threatening in everything that we play. We make a deep run. It's very rare that we're knocked out immediately. Does it happen? Yeah, of course it can. But again, even this season, we still moved on to the next round in CONCACAF Cup before we got knocked out. We're always a threat. When you're that kind of coach and you can instill that kind of culture, I think when it's all said and done, Ben is going to go down to somebody who, quote unquote, saved the Dynamo. That's my hope.
But I feel like when it comes to just sports in general, at the end of the day, championships is what's matter. And like I think of like Rick Adelman with the Rockets. Rick Adelman, in my opinion, was one of our best coaches. I loved Rick Adelman's offense with the Rockets. Nobody talks about him anymore. We didn't win any championships with him. Our last coach with Chris Paul and James Harden, I can't even think of the
Mike
name right now.
D'Antoni.
Was it D'Antoni that year? Yeah, I mean, we don't really talk about him in his Rock. I feel like he's known more for his Phoenix era than the Rockets. So I just think championships
Yeah,
matter.
but
And
we've
the other thing
won.
is that, like, do what?
We've won. We have a U.S. Open Cup against a Inter Miami team that was red hot in terms. Granted, Messi didn't play, but we at least beat them in their house.
But so did Wilmer with a way worse team and way less resources than what Ben has. Wilmer was a part of Matt Jordan's Dynamo, and I mean he
Yeah,
pulled
I
that
know,
out.
but the league wasn't what it is today.
Yeah, but I like look. Kinnear at one point was being considered for the U.S. men's national team, so I don't think anyone's really considering Ben to be the next coach. And
I mean,
I mean,
that's
I
not
guess
saying much. I'm sorry. Look
yeah,
at
but
who
I
we
mean,
hire
I mean, I mean, that's another
for the
that's
national
another
team. I mean, get out of here. I don't really think that's a big honor, to be honest. Like,
yeah, but
I think
this
it
was
is a
like
big honor to be nominated for it, but who we actually hire, get out of here. I think that's
but
an indictment.
this was like around the Klinsman time. Like right now, and I think we both stand on the same page with Berhalter, but I just think he was more like, okay, do you think if we went, and this might be something we could actually, like an experiment we could try, if we go to a DC United fan, like what are they going to say about Ben? Do they consider him like one of the all-time goats, being there for 10 or so years? I just think it's too early to tell. He's
But
he's laid a foundation
different.
that
He's moved on. Other coaches can play somewhere and then go on and start winning championships. You know what I mean? Like, just because you didn't show up for your first stint and then win immediately. Like Roy Williams didn't start winning championships at Kansas until he went on to North Carolina, and then he started winning, and then it was like, oh, what an amazing, great coach. Like, I just feel like if you ask sure, maybe DC is like, it wasn't great in some years, but he was learning to become a great coach, in which he's doing now.
but that's my point, like, because he was winning, they weren't terrible all the time. There was times where they were really good under his reign, but there's no silverware at the end of the day. Like, and for me, like,
We have it, though. We have
but
silverware.
that's tough because you have it with Cabrera though, and I'm more impressed with what Cabrera did, if I'm being completely honest, just because of the team. Like, we won it with Hector Herrera. Cabrera had Albert Ellis.
And the
Like,
year before, we were absolute like dwellers, like with Hector Herrera. Like, it's just you can't say this guy has not changed this foundation of this team. Look at what we're doing without Hector Herrera right now.
no, and I mean that's all great, but I don't think it's to be in the discussion of top Dynamo coach yet. I just think he has a lot to fill with what Kinnear did in his first couple years.
I think if he wins a championship now, I mean, he's arguably there.
It would take more than one championship for me, at least. That's a good poll. That's a poll we need to put up there. We were too
I'm telling you,
agreeable
man.
in the beginning of this episode.
That's why I've turned up the heat on that one. That's why I was pushing it. All right, here then, producer Shay, last one.
Ball in or ball out?
Should the Dynamo make Sketch a club ambassador?
Oh, let's
You
go.
wanted to bring this up. I told
Special
you I don't know who
teams,
this guy is.
Special plays, special players. Just Brandon, next
I don't
time
know who
when
he
you're
is.
at work, tomorrow, just go up to somebody and just do this. See what they say.
I
What's
went to
up,
Texas
brother?
Tech, so that means something different from me.
Look, Sketch. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't think Sketch will move the needle much for the Dynamo. For me, it's more about brand recognition. If you can get him wearing the purple Dynamo kit the same way he wears the CJ Stroud kit, like, the guy is viral right now. And I just want the Dynamo to be recognized. I want people to see the purple and orange and be like, Dynamo, without even hesitating about it. I feel like, again, we're talking about the new generation and trying to attract these kids. These are the type of guys that you get for this kind of stuff. I just think he can help make the brand recognizable.
I worry about giving it to somebody that isn't tied up with something more of like a corporate entity. Like, it's easy to get athletes because they're tied up into an organization and then etc. When you just take a streamer, it's kind of, you're just taking them. And if they turn into something that's an awful person or something like that, or they do something in their past, it can make it wretched. Can it happen with athletes? Yeah. Hey, OJ just passed away. So, like, yeah, it can definitely happen. Aaron Hernandez, right? Like, it's still possible. I just don't think you want to give ambassadorships to guys like him. I get streamers are hot and all those things, but don't give me somebody that's a gimmick for a role that's important. If we're using him as a brand recognition, I would still rather associate with somebody that's that's better.
You know what I love about him more than anything is that he reminds me of like a mini Paul Wall. He looks like he could be Paul Wall's like illegitimate son. And so I don't know, man. I didn't hear much about him until like 2-3 weeks ago. And yeah, he's just blowing up right now. For me, it's just I don't know, and I hate using the term ambassador. I don't know if I want him like at Dynamo games. I really don't care about all that. For me, it's just if a 10-year-old is watching him and he's wearing that purple kit, he's like, oh, that looks cool. And then he's, from where I'm from, I can relate to him, whatever. I was cracking up because I read yesterday. I feel like we've brought in WrestleMania up like the past 3 episodes, but there was that part where they brought iShowSpeed, another streamer, to WrestleMania to help out Logan Paul. That little clip of him with Randy Orton was the most viewed clip of all of WrestleMania, and it was like by a long shot. It was like by the millions, and so it's just
Is that the dude who took out Kaká?
yeah, that dummy. And
Okay.
so it's just, man, it's just crazy how popular these streamers are with kids. And again, it's like, a kid isn't really going to move the needle for us. It's just that's more of like laying the foundation for the future to build fans now, so that when they have the spending power, they'll be putting it into the club.
It's making me realize I'm getting old because I have no idea who any of these people are, and that's
I always feel
that's
like
the
I always feel like the Steve Buscemi meme with the skateboard. Like, hey, my fellow kids.
thing.
Like, that's exactly how I feel whenever I know about these streamers, because yeah, it's tough to keep up, man. And it's crazy because it's so easy for like things to go viral. So it's like 15 seconds of fame have turned into 3 seconds of fame. Like, you can be popular and then just be done with it within the next day, and then there's something new out there. And it's nuts, man, how fast everything moves now.
Well, I need my Rising Stars videos to go viral. That'd be awesome. That would be helpful for me.
Well, what is it? The way we midlife crisis. That's how
The
I
way we
feel.
bribe.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, that was it. Again, we started pretty agreeable, but those last two topics got us going. Let us know what y'all think. More so on where you put Ben as far as the coaching being an all-time great. But for this week's episode, let's go Liverpool. And I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and let's take down Austin. And this is the way we ball.